Purdue will be coming off a bye week when these teams meet the first weekend of October. I believe that is October 4th. I didn't write it down exactly, but that should be how the math works out if their first game before that is on the 27th. So yeah, October 4th. They'll be coming off a bye, but the week before that bye, so on the 20th, when Illinois is at Indiana, Purdue's going to be at Notre Dame. They play Notre Dame every year as part of a rivalry. So they'll probably get smoked by Notre Dame, but then they have to sit on that for like 2 weeks. So I don't love that, right? I like pointing out USC's travel schedule last week is definitely something that kind of helps sway my mind from USC to Illinois for this game. This one can be kind of seen as a trap game as well, right? You're getting this in the middle of definitely the hardest part of the schedule with Indiana, USC, and then Ohio State the following week. And this is the kind of a random road game kind of thrown in there. So it definitely susceptible to trap game potential. But I mean, hey, we'll see, man. We're going to get into the roster tonight. All time versus Purdue. The Illini are 46, 48, and 6. That is exactly 100 games they have played against Purdue. So this will be meeting number 101 in October. At Purdue, they are 23, 24, and 4. At home against Purdue, they are also 23 and 24, just with only 2 ties. Pretty crazy to have the exact same record, just with some extra ties at Purdue versus home at Purdue. It's been a very, very even history between these two teams through 100 games. As again, Illinois has won 46. They've won 48. Their last meeting came last year. They play every year. And that was that wild 50-49 overtime win that just was absolutely, even though Illinois won, like, oh my God, what a nightmare. Just that flash before our eyes watching/following that game. Those are the kind of games that make you look at Illinois' schedule and be like, could be a trap game, could be a trap game, could be a trap game. Because that's absolutely what that game was. It was definitely a really random, okay, little tune-up opponent here. Purdue didn't win a game in the Big Ten all year. That was the closest they got to it. It was in Champaign. That's still a little embarrassing. I'm personally hoping that is going to light a fire under these guys, right? And that even though this is coming the week before Ohio State and right after Indiana, USC, that they're not going to overlook this game, right? Even if they beat Indiana and USC and they're undefeated, they're 5-0, right? And they just can't wait to face Ohio State the next week in front of the home crowd. It's going to be an orange out for that game. It's going to be exciting no matter what, especially if they're 6-0 for that game. So, I mean, there's definitely potential for them to overlook this game, but that last meeting last year is exactly what I think is going to motivate this team to show up, play their hardest, just put Purdue in the ground, man. Don't play with our food like we did last year. 50-49 is ridiculous. But they did escape it. That is the most important thing. At the end of the day, it was ugly, but they won. Their last win in West Lafayette, so at Purdue, since that's where they're going, was the year before then. They lost that one pretty bad, actually, 44-19. That was not great. Their last win they had in West Lafayette was on October 26th back in 2019. So they haven't won there yet this decade, although this year certainly looks like their best chance yet. They're 24-6. And their first meeting dates all the way back to 1890 on November 22nd. Purdue defeated Illinois 62-0 in West Lafayette. In 1890, 62 points in 1890. I guess people are still trying to figure out how the game of football works. Like, those spectators had to have their minds blown. They were like, what the heck is going on? Everything they do scores points. 62 points is crazy now. I can't imagine that 135 years ago when that game is like essentially being born. Dang, what were we doing back then to give up 62 points? Was a forward pass even invented? How did they score 62? Well, I'm not going to harp on it. It's 135 years ago. I can get over it. Purdue's recent history. I had trouble actually accessing their schedule page earlier today when I was trying to pull up like their past seasons to look at not just their record, but like specifically the opponents and kind of how bad they're getting beat or how much they were winning by in some of those earlier years. But I couldn't access the schedule page through the website. I couldn't click it. I could click everything else, but my cursor wouldn't like light up on the schedule. Like it wasn't something I could click. It was just text. I had to back out and search Purdue schedule and then go to that page directly through my search. So come on, Purdue, fix your website. What's going on with that? But anyway, it wasn't really that much of a hassle. I just wanted to mention that so someone can get on that. 2024 Purdue was really freaking bad. They were 1-11, didn't win in a game in the Big Ten. They were 0-9, and they were a whopping 1-5 at home. I mean, they could either be winless or one win at home with the 1-11 record. But yeah, 1-5 at home. That win actually came week 1 as well. So they're currently on an 11-game losing streak. They beat Indiana State 49-0. And then didn't even sniff a win again until that Illinois game and still didn't get it. They gave up 50 points to Illinois. That was one of only 4 times that they gave up 50 or more points in a game last season. 2 of those were over 60. And they got smacked. And they lost like 66-0, something like that. Maybe it wasn't nothing, but I know Indiana had like 66 when they played at Indiana last game of the year. It was absolutely brutal. They were also shut out 3 times. There's nothing was going right for this team. They couldn't score. They couldn't stop people from scoring. The only time they could score was against Indiana State and then against Illinois when they dropped 49 in both those games. And they still only won one of those games. Just a really awful all-around team, which is led to a lot of changes in the Purdue roster coming this season. 2023, they were bad. They weren't quite as bad because they were decent at home at least. They were 4-8 and 3-6 in the Big Ten, but they were 3-4 at home. And they beat their wins were Virginia Tech was their one out-of-conference win, and then Illinois was one of their Big Ten wins, along with Minnesota and then Indiana, because Indiana was bad in 23. They were losing to Purdue. 2022, though, they were actually decent. I mean, they had a decent run before these last 2 years with a bad 23 and just absolute nightmare 2024. But in 22, they were 8-6. They actually got in 14 games, 6-3 in the Big Ten, 4-2 at home. And they beat Illinois that year as well, 31-24. That was in Champaign because they made the Big Ten championship, but they lost to Michigan. 43-22 would eventually become the national champions. And then they made the Cheez-It Bowl. How about that? But they couldn't crack it like Illinois could in the Cheez-It Bowl. They got absolutely rocked by LSU 63-7. Good Lord. 2021, they were 9-4, even better. They were 6-3, 4-2 at home. They beat Illinois again, 13-9. Recent history has not been kind to Illinois versus Purdue. Then they beat Tennessee in a wild game in the Trans-Perfect Music City Bowl, 48-45. It's basically a home game for Tennessee. It's kind of like the basketball game we were talking about earlier this episode, where Illinois is playing Tennessee in Nashville. I'm pretty sure that Music City is Nashville. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that bowl takes place at the Titans Stadium. So a really cool win for Purdue. Good job, guys. Where is that now? And then 2020, that's as far as we're going to go back. They're 2-4 in the shortened season. Couldn't really crack it in the shortened season. They did start 2-0, but then they couldn't make it happen. But you always got to take those 2020 records with a grain of salt. This team was really good in 21 and 22. This team was really, really bad in 23 and then just god awful in 24. But there's a lot of change going on in Purdue, though. I do think this will be a slightly better Purdue team. In college football, since we talked about Illinois' ratings earlier, might as well talk about Purdue's now that we're trying to evaluate them. They're a 74 overall. So not super daunting. 71 on offense, 72 on defense. See, now their offense and defense are both less than their overall rating. So how is theirs more and Illinois is less? Someone, please. If no one's gonna comment on the live, someone please who watches his back or watches either of the videos, explain that to me. Explain how the overall rating is determined. They have 5 players above 80, which is a lot less than Illinois 16. None of them are above 85, though. Illinois, quite a few over 85. Their coach, this is going to be the biggest wild card, honestly, because I don't know how their system's going to look. The guess is pretty pass heavy based on Barry Odom, the new Purdue head coach's past. But you don't know what he's going to do with the players he has. Bigger program than he's used to coaching. So, or I guess not, actually. Look at his history. Sorry, I'm really tired today. It's a long day. So he's entering his first year after Ryan Walters was let go after last year's train wreck. Odom has been the head coach at Missouri from 2016 to 2019. He also played there as a linebacker from 96 until 99. And then most recently, he was the head coach at UNLV the last 2 seasons, 23 and 24. Had a decent UNLV team, even with all the drama with their quarterback transferring, demanding more money, all that stuff. Still got him to a decent record. Overall, as a head coach in his 5 seasons, that is, between Mizzou and UNLV, he's 44 and 33, so winning record. He's 0-3 in bowl games, though. But I'd be pretty surprised if Purdue could reach a bowl game this year, so shouldn't have to worry about that. Their top players, and this is still going to be based off CFB 26, since we were talking about it earlier, and it's just on my mind, comes out tomorrow. So you got CJ Nanali, I hope I said that right, the 4th. He's a transfer from Akron, and he is actually their highest rated player at 84 overall. He is going to be number 91. They have him listed as a right end. And then you got Devin Makobi, the running back, 84 overall as well, wearing number 45. Then you got Tony Grimes. He is a UNLV transfer coming along with his head coach. He's at corner. He's 82 overall. He's going to wear number 0. You got running back Malachi Thomas, another running back at 81, so decent running back room for him. Not rated as well as the Illinois running backs are, but pretty good. He's going to be 24. And then you got left tackle Jalen St. John. He's another UNLV transfer. He is going to be the top guy on their O-line. He is an 81 overall. Those are the only players that crack the 80s, though. And highest is 284s. They also kind of have a battle at the QB position. They got some interesting transfers coming in. A lot of guys left Purdue, a lot of guys coming to Purdue. So it's really hard to compare this Purdue team to last year's between having a new head coach and having a very new roster overall. 3 of those top 5 guys are transfers already that we talked about. And QB, it's kind of hard to pinpoint right now. They got Malachi Singleton transferring in from Arkansas. And you got E.J. Colson transferring back from UCF. He actually was on Purdue and then transferred to UCF, and now has transferred back to Purdue. So it's really been those 2 pretty big name transfers, honestly, competing for that starting quarterback job out in West Lafayette. I would predict it would be Singleton because Arkansas. But you don't know, actually. Colson has played at Purdue before, so they definitely might go with him. That's probably what I would do, honestly. But I would think they would go with Singleton just because he's coming from Arkansas. But that's hard to compare. UCF's a much better program. They have a much better reputation now. Still not quite SEC, but they're not like when they were undefeated. Everyone's like, well, who cares? You didn't play anybody. That's not what they do anymore. They play people. But their secondary especially got ripped apart by the transfer portal. Dylan Thieneman was their top guy. He was one of 10 DBs that transferred out. They got 6 back, though, from the transfer portal. Their receiver room will be interesting as well. They had 5 guys transfer out, and they had 5 guys transfer in. So they literally just whole new wide receiver room. So they're not really going to have an advantage over Illinois in that department, since that is one of Illinois' weaker spots on their roster right now, just because of the uncertainty. But UCF, they got Chauncey Magwood, which is a reason to think that EJ Colson might start, since one of his receivers came with them. You got Charles Ross coming from USC as well. Overall, though, on paper, on every metric, this Illinois team is much better. The only way that Purdue could beat them is if Illinois just completely overlooks this game, right? It definitely has road game, trap game potential.